You know how some subclasses in D&D are really powerful and other ones are fun to play, but once in a while you come across one that makes you go, wait a minute, they can do what? Yeah, that's College of Creation Bards. Creation Bards seem harmless on the surface until you dive in and realize that they can do things like completely reshape reality, create entire construct armies, and basically turn you into the Dr. Manhattan of D&D. Today I'm going to show you why Creation Bards are one of the most ridiculously powerful and also ridiculously fun to play subclasses in the entire game. Now let's dive in.
When I sing, matter dances to my song.
Why are Creation Bards so powerful? Well, basically they are tuned into the song of creation and they know some of the words of creation, which means their powers aren't always just spells. Sometimes they're just able to will things into existence. We're going to start with one of their most powerful features, and that is their pet. And yes, Creation Bards have a pet. Kind of. The feature I'm talking about is their 6th level feature, Animating Performance, and that allows them to take an object in their environment and make it a dancing item. So let's start with the basics and the limitations. They can target any non-magical item within 30 feet of them, and it has to be an item that is not worn or carried. Now notice it doesn't say anything about being held. That's one of the first things missing from this description. It doesn't do a lot for us, but it does allow you to target things that people maybe are grabbing or have their hands on, like a door that you normally couldn't target with a spell that says it can't be worn, held, or carried. The object also has to be large or smaller. So all of that seems harmless enough, right? Except this is not a summons. It's not a conjuration. It's not a spell, which means it can't be dispelled and it can't be counterspelled. And the object's pretty sturdy. It can have up to 105 hit points. It can fly, it can hover, and it lasts for an hour, which means you can cast buff spells on it because technically it's a creature. Now, even with all of that, you might say, okay, that's great, but I don't get it. What's the big deal? Well, for starters, none of that requires concentration. And I don't think people understand how singular that ability is. Do you know how rare it is to have something in D&D that allows you to summon or conjure a creature, an ally, or a pet that is that powerful that doesn't require concentration and lasts for an hour? So I know, you might be saying, okay, but they can only take the dodge action unless you command them, and that takes your bonus action to command them, except you need to read the fine print because there's synergy with your bardic inspiration. Now, a Creation Bard already has some of the best bardic inspiration in the game because of Mote of Potential, and that is going to make your bardic inspiration die more powerful every time it's used. When you use bardic inspiration on your dancing item, which you can because it's a creature, you can also command it for free, which means you can double up on that bonus action, hit it with some awesome Mote of Potential bardic inspiration, and command it at the same time. And when you command it, you can command it to do pretty much anything. It's not limited to what's in its stat block. It can make unarmed attacks. It can grapple. And because it can fly and has a strength of 18, it can actually grapple and pick up and fly away with lots of stuff. Not only that, but need to fly? Just hop on its back and fly away. Now you have a flying mount. And if you have animated a large object, this thing could carry up to 480 pounds when it does that for an hour with no concentration. In case you're wondering, that is so superior to the fly spell. Which brings up the other thing you might be thinking. Okay, that's all great, but you can only do it once a day. Unless you spend a 3rd level spell slot to keep doing it over and over again. And you can do that because you're a bard. You're probably going to have a lot of spell slots. And let's look at the power level compared to spending a 3rd level spell slot elsewhere. Where else are you going to be able to spend a 3rd level slot and be able to summon an ally that can double your actions and serve as a flying mount for an hour straight with no concentration, all for a 3rd level slot? And now think of it from the DM's point of view. Now the DM has to deal with your pet, which doubles your action economy, can double your attacks if you want it to. This thing can fly, it can hover, it can't be dispelled, it can't be counterspelled, you don't need concentration, it lasts for an hour, and you can use it as a flying mount. And the crazy part is, that might not even be their most powerful feature, because we haven't talked about yet Performance of Creation and Creative Crescendo. People often sleep on this feature because they don't understand just how powerful it is. Basically, what it lets you do is create anything you want. The only limitations are it has to be a non-magical object, and you have to create it in an unoccupied space on a surface or a liquid that can support it. But other than that, it's limited only by your imagination. At high levels, this can allow you to create multiple objects at a time. You can create one huge object plus 4 small objects all at once. And when you get to Creative Crescendo, there's no gold piece limit on what you can create. You can create anything. In fact, there's one sneaky good thing you can do with this that most people don't realize. You can create expensive spell components. That's right, you have a spell that requires a 1500 gold piece component to cast. Not a problem, it's not going to cost you anything. Now you might be saying, okay, but again, you can only use this once a day, right? Except you can use it multiple times a day if you're willing to spend a second level slot. So let's compare that power-wise to what you might be able to do with another spell slot, say casting the Fabricate spell or the Creation spell. Fabricate is a 4th level spell, and Creation is a 5th level spell. And guess what? This power is more powerful than both of them combined for a 2nd level slot. This may be the most powerful creative problem-solving spell in the game besides the Wish spell, and the Wish spell takes a 9th level slot to cast. If you're the type of player that's really good at being creative with features like this, maybe if you're someone who's really good at using illusions, you are going to kick butt with a Creation Bard. And that's not even factoring in the secret synergy that I'm about to share with you, because Creation Bards are insanely good at creating construct armies. Now you may be thinking, wait a minute, they can only have one dancing item at a time, right? How are they good at creating construct armies? Well, it's when you combine a Creation Bard with one specific feat, and that is Inspiring Leader. See, people often forget that Inspiring Leader allows you to provide a temp hit point buff to any allies or creatures. It doesn't just have to be your party members or yourself. And it only takes 10 minutes to provide that buff to 6 creatures. Okay, that's great, but how do we leverage that to make a construct army? Well, it's when we combine a few different features that we already have in our class and our subclass with this Inspiring Leader feat, and here's what they are. Magical Secrets allows us to learn the 3rd level wizard spell, Tiny Servant. Now, Tiny Servant seems pretty innocuous. It just lets us take a small object and turn it into a construct that's going to have a mere 10 hit points. However, this construct otherwise acts a lot like our dancing item from Animating Performance. It's going to go at the end of our turn and basically give us a whole other action that we can take with that item. And it does have a decent little attack to it. But here's the thing that's really cool about it. When you upcast the spell, you're going to get 2 more Tiny Servants for every level you upcast it. So if you cast it at, say, 6th level, you're going to get 7 Tiny Servants. And you can do this over and over, especially if you took the last shift on guard duty. So you're up for 2 hours, but you already slept for 6, and you got 2 hours left before you finish your long rest. You can rest cast. You can actually cast spells for less than an hour and still not break your long rest and get all those slots back at the end of your long rest. So you could cast Tiny Servant multiple times. You could upcast it multiple times and create this small little construct army, and then you could just spend some time talking to them. Now you might have, say, 24 small constructs that each effectively have 35 hit points. Now I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, big deal, the DM's just going to cast an area effect spell and wipe them out, but who says you're dumb enough to put them all clustered in a small space? Maybe everyone in your party has 2 little helpers now that give them the help action on every single attack, or provide extra attacks. And even if your DM does cast Fireball at your constructs, counterspell. That's what we have Magical Secrets for. And if you want to make it even scarier, take 3 levels of Sorcerer, pick up some meta magic points, and use Extended Spell. Now these constructs are going to last for 16 hours without concentration. Now I want you to picture yourself rolling into battle with an army of small constructs that each have effectively 35 hit points, and you cast Animated Object on top of that, so you animate another 10 objects, and they're all flying around, and now you have an extra 25 attacks per turn. Which kind of brings us around to the destructive side of a build like this, because if you have access to the Words of Creation, you probably also have access to Words of Destruction. Now, bards already have access to really powerful spells like this, like Power Word Stun and Power Word Kill. But if you're making a Creation Bard, you can really double down on this flavor and also make them mechanically very powerful.
When I speak, matter blooms. When I whisper, it dies.
For example, I just made an Aasimar Creation Bard build that I call the Echo of Creation, and I used their magical secrets to also give them access to spells like Disintegrate and even Dark Star. Now that one's really sneaky good. If you don't know, Dark Star is a very powerful spell that basically creates a black hole. Now I know what you're thinking. Hey, isn't that from Wildmount? We're not allowed to use that. Isn't that a Dunamancy spell? Blah, blah, blah. That's all BS. Of course your DM has to approve of it, but there is nothing in Dunamancy spells that says that you cannot use those spells. What it does say is that they're not supposed to be on other classes' spell lists, meaning they can't be made into cleric spells or sorcerer spells. They're supposed to be wizard spells. But if you watch the video where Jeremy Crawford talks about this and you read what it actually says in the Wildmount book, it is totally fine for other wizards to be able to learn these spells, even on worlds that have nothing to do with Wildmount. Now, it's not on a bard spell list, but it just has to be on a wizard spell list for us to take it with magical secrets. And as long as your DM's okay with it, Dark Star is an awesome spell for a creation bard to have. What we're not going to tell your DM is what happens when you cast Dark Star and then you drop a Force Cage over it in base 5e where you don't have to concentrate on Force Cage. So why are builds like this so powerful? Well, think about it. You have a build that can double action economy, or if they create an army of constructs, their action economy goes through the roof. They have core features that are scalable to insane power levels. In fact, some of them, in some ways, are scalable infinitely when it comes to things like the gold piece value of what they can create. They also have access to super powerful high-level spells, including Wish. And honestly, they can solve pretty much any problem in the game. This character can be utility, it can be damage dealing, it can be a tank, it can be a healer, it can be a puzzle solver or problem solver, or pretty much anything you want. Now, if you want to see what a Creation Bard can actually do in action, make sure you go check out some of the short skits I've made on this. They're on my playlist, Utterly Broken Things. And also make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out when I make new skits like that in the future. And if you want to see the utterly awesome Echo of Creation Bard build that I made myself, you can find it on my Patreon. I've got a full 6-page build guide there with both the 5e and 2024 versions of the build available for you. Till next time, happy gaming.